The Washington Post is reporting that Amazon is reconsidering putting HQ2 in New York. What's your reaction to that?
My reaction is this is the type of extortion by Amazon that's got us into this mess in the first place. They think they could sit there in Seattle and dictate terms and hope that governments bend to their will. Well, it's not going to work. $3 billion is for Amazon to come here is an outrage, and it always has been. And if their view is they will only come here if they get to dictate terms and do things their way, then maybe they shouldn't come.
Now, lay out your argument for us, because we're talking about thousands of jobs here. Senator, why don't you want Amazon in your city?
Well, that's a loaded question. It's not what I've said at all. What I've said is jobs are good, but we need to get them the right way. And we shouldn't be subsidizing them to the tune of $3 billion plus. Google is bringing 20,000 jobs to New York with a minimal, if any, public subsidy involved. Now, if I'm Google and I see that Amazon is successful in extorting $3 billion from the state, I'm on the phone the next day saying, well, where's my money? And then so on and so on and so on. This is a discussion that should be taking place on a national level about whether this is the right way to engage in economic development policy in this country. We are throwing our public dollars at the wealthiest of the wealthy and hope that we get some of it back due to their activity. That's Reaganomics. That's trickle-down economics that was discredited a long time ago. And I don't know why people like Andrew Cuomo are the biggest champions now of corporate welfare in the hopes that the largesse of the wealthiest among us might somehow benefit the common man.
But is there a risk, New York, or a political price that you could pay if Amazon just withdraws and focuses on Virginia?
Well, that's not what's motivating me, and so that will be whatever it will be. I'm doing the right thing by the people of the state and by the people I represent, and the chips will fall where they may, but I have a sneaking suspicion, and public polling has confirmed this, that when asked if it's worth $3 billion in subsidies to have Amazon here, the public says no.
So, have you heard from Jeff Bezos at all?
No, I have not. I think he's busy.
He has been very busy, it seems. What is a message that you would like to deliver to him?
Well, I would say they should start acting like a responsible corporate citizen and stop exacerbating the concentration of power that's moving way too much in the direction of private corporate interests in this country. They are sitting there dictating to governments of this country how much money they want, making them compete with each other, forcing them to sign secrecy agreements, and then threatening to leave if they don't get their way. Well, that is not the way to operate, and New York does not need to bend to Jeff Bezos' will. So I'm going to continue fighting for my neighborhood, my state, and I think this is an issue that should receive national attention. If we can reframe the debate about corporate welfare and subsidies of these kinds of projects, we'll have achieved a lot. Europe doesn't even permit this, okay? So we are off in a very strange a direction where the corporations are dictating policy more and more. It started with the Citizens United decision by the Supreme Court. We've seen in Seattle when Amazon doesn't like something the local city council is doing, it flexes its muscle and gets them to reverse their course. This is very dangerous. Okay, governments exist to be an avenue for the public to express itself and to make decisions about itself. If we're going to cede that to corporate powers, we're going down a very dangerous road.
If there was one thing that Amazon could do to change your mind, what would that be?
Well, it would have to be several things, but they could start with saying, all right, we realize this deal is not a good deal for the people of New York. We're going to throw it away. That would be the first step that would be necessary.
What if Amazon agreed to spend the incentives on schools, on infrastructure, on improvements to the community, other benefits? Would that change your mind?
Look, I'm not here to negotiate with you or have hypotheticals. The fact is, and today's activity and statements by Amazon and their representatives makes clear that they're not interested in having real conversations about what it would take. All they're saying is this is what we want. If we don't get it, we're leaving. And if that's their view, then they should leave.
Now, the mayor and the governor has said that no elected official wants to take the risk of costing the city 25, 40,000 potential jobs. Are you saying you're willing to risk your career on this?
I guess I'm saying they're wrong. That's what I'm saying. And maybe they don't want to risk their careers on justifying $3 billion to Jeff Bezos, because that's the real question here. And let me speak a little bit about these jobs. New York City, over the last several years, has been creating about 90,000 new jobs every single year. So you break down those 25,000 they're promising over the 10 to 15 years that this deal would call for, you're talking about maybe 2% of the city's normal job growth. It's not insignificant. I'm not saying that at all, but it's certainly not an earth-shattering figure that will alter the course of New York City. But allowing them in here without a real effort to talk about what the community needs, what the state needs, and not giving them all this money that we could certainly use somewhere else, I think is a real problem.
Now, we can't go back in time, but I wonder, is there anything differently that Amazon could have done in the selection process to win your support, to win the support of your colleagues?
Well, you're asking me a lot of hypotheticals, but the fact is they have a worldview and they have a way of doing things, and that's why we are where we are today. If the public was let into this process a year ago, instead of forcing governments to sign non-disclosure agreements, if they were actually had an open process where the public can express themselves in terms of how far they were willing to go or what they would require back, that's a very, very different conversation. They did not want to have that conversation, and now we are where we are.